Joining us now is Vernon Robinson. He is chairman of the organization Black Americans to Re-elect the President from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Vernon, we've known each other a long time. You've been a Trump supporter since day one, and now you're head of an organization, Black Americans to Re-elect the President. Tell me about the way African Americans view the president. In 2016, he got 8%. A lot of people in the campaign think that could go up to 10, 12. Some are saying 15%. I don't ever think he's going to get there, but I think it could be over 10. What say you?
Well, he can get over 20 in the places it matters. In other words, it doesn't matter how many black votes he gets in California and New York. It matters greatly the votes that he gets in North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Virginia, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. So basically, what's happening is that the campaign is going to target its resources. My super PAC and the other super PACs that do urban contemporary radio are going to target the resources. The only question is whether the GOP will get off its butt and finally ask black voters for the order, because they haven't done that in 70 years and have managed to destroy the GOP brand. I published a book with Bruce Eberly recently, Coming Home, How Black Americans Will Re-elect Trump, and it looks at how black Americans became Democrats. And they became Democrats because FDR had a political problem. All these black voters, 6 million of them were leaving the South, and they knew the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party was not their friend. It was the party of segregation, slavery, Jim Crow laws, and the Klan. So they went on a publicity personality.
This is FDR.
Things. FDR. Soulless personality. Had Eleanor invite the wives of prominent black women for tea, and they put this all in the black newspapers, the Chicago Defender, a couple other newspapers, and he managed to get 30-something in 32, but he got 76% in 36. But the Democratic Party still did not get a majority of black voter support until 48. So
that was Truman.
That was Truman.
So what? Just give us the history. So FDR went after black voters in 32, in 1932, right?
32, because
against Hoover.
Because there were 6 million black voters who had left the South and become voters. I mean, they were citizens in the South. They were voters.
And they had left the
North.
South and come to the North.
The North, Midwest, or
above
West.
Above the Mason-Dixon line.
Yeah, above or beyond, because
right.
my parents went west, for instance.
Right, above or beyond Mason-Dixon. So they got out of the South. They're voters. They're registered. They're citizens. 6 million blacks come out of Mason-Dixon. They get up west somewhere. And then FDR goes after them in 1932.
Yes, and he didn't sell the Democratic Party because that would have been impossible. He sold himself and his wife.
And the New Deal.
And so, but the New Deal left all the segregation stuff in place.
Right.
The New Deal programs were segregated. They were paying black folks different wages, lower wages, et cetera. I mean, it was his personality that he was selling, because he wasn't selling liberation, because that didn't happen. But the president has an opportunity to do the same thing in reverse, and that is sell himself and his policies and ignore the GOP like it doesn't exist. It's in a different planet. Because the GOP's brand has been destroyed in the black community. I mean, essentially, the GOP has not asked...
Which started in 1964 with the civil rights, basically.
Well,
because in 1960, Richard Nixon got like 35% of the black vote.
He got 30.
30.
Yeah.
And then 64, Goldwater got 5 or 6%.
Yes.
Because Goldwater filibustered against civil rights.
Well, actually, he wasn't in the Senate then. He opposed the 64 Civil Rights Act as a candidate on constitutional grounds. When we did the research of the book, we scoured the countryside to find the 83-page memo written by an obscure young lawyer by the name of Robert Bork, who advised Goldwater not to support the Civil Rights Act on constitutional grounds, and the 15-page memo that another lawyer, William Rehnquist, put on top of it. Both of those documents have been gotten by the body snatchers. They disappeared. They're nowhere to be found anywhere.
So, Vernon, what percentage of the black vote did Goldwater get in 64?
It was single digits.
7, 6.
Yeah, and so the
after Nixon got 30% in 1960.
Yeah, essentially the Democrats managed to tar a guy with a great civil rights record, Goldwater, and promote a guy who used the N-word every other sentence, Johnson, to the point that his daughter used it in public. Had no bones about saying, "Where's my N?"
Because they said it in the household since she was a little girl.
She's a little girl. So the GOP gave up on trying to get black voters after that, and the consultant said, "Don't talk to black voters. It'll only upset them," and it's crazy. They're in the black voters very conservative on social policy. When North Carolina had a ballot initiative to say marriage is between a man and a woman, biblical marriage, the Democratic Party and the NAACP came out against it, and folks were saying, "Oh, black folks are going to vote against marriage." And I said, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." Are you really saying that black voters in rural parts of North Carolina are more liberal than the black voters in Los Angeles, California? Because in Los Angeles, California, they voted 71% for marriage. And it really irritated the pink team when Obama was turning out these voters that he knew were going to vote for the marriage amendment. And I grew up in Los Angeles. I called my high school friends. I said, "Who are you voting for?" "Obama." "How are you voting on marriage?" "We're voting for marriage." So it was somewhat humorous. But what has happened is that because the GOP is not communicating at all, and Democrats are able to just say, "Vote Democratic because Republicans want to kill your mama and your dog," the Republican brand has been destroyed to the point that black voters tend to associate positive things with the Democratic Party and negative things with the Republican Party. So if you polled black voters today and asked them which party is the party best able to defend the innocent unborn, you'd probably get the same result that happened a couple of years back, and that is 61% Democrat and 19% Republican to defend the innocent unborn, to cut taxes, to support school choice, etc. So, and the GOP has to ask itself, why would you be disbarred if politics had a bar association for malpractice? Black voters, 1% of black voters watch Fox News. The Democrats are not going to tell them that their buddies are Planned Parenthood and that together they've killed 20 million black babies. The Republicans aren't saying anything at all, and you're not going to get it on Fox News because nobody's watching Fox News. So how are they supposed to figure out which party is going to cut taxes, defend the innocent unborn, and protect the Second Amendment?
Oh, yeah, I tell you what, you absolutely nailed it. We're live at CPAC here with Vernon Robinson. He is with Black Americans to re-elect the president, keeping America great. So, Vernon, I get where you're coming from, but if the president gets 15% of the African-American vote in 2020, he wins in a landslide. If he gets 12%, he wins handily. If he gets 10%, he's the favorite to get reelected. Polls show that upwards of 30% of black males right now approve of the president. That doesn't translate into voting for him, though, in November. We all know that. If you had to make a prediction right now, Vernon, what percentage of the vote you think Trump will get in 2020 of the black vote?
Well, I wanted to say, before I repeat 20% in the swing states, I don't care what he gets nationwide. I only care what happens in 8 states.
So you think he's going to get 20% in the swing states? Because if he does that, Trump wins in a landslide. Because he'll win every single one of them. Here's my question though. Yeah. Swing state. Define a swing state. Give me any one.
Florida.
Why would 20% of black voters vote for Trump in Florida, but only 5% would vote for Trump in California? What's the difference?
Okay, well, there's a big difference.
Or New Jersey, or New York, or Rhode Island.
Okay, I was a school choice guy, and I continually said school choice is great. School choice is great for kids, it's great for teachers, it's not great for the union, and it can be great for the GOP. But I didn't have any voter evidence that school choice pushed the voter support. In Florida, in the last election, 2018, Ron DeSantis got 18% of black women, 15% overall, and the reason they got it was because the black Democrat opponent.
The mayor from Tallahassee, what was his name? Andrew?
It was Jacksonville, I think. But yeah,
no, it was Tallahassee mayor.
Tallahassee, okay.
Yeah, wasn't it Andrew Gillis? Gilliam.
Okay, so he says we're going to get rid of all the school choice programs, the programs that the legislature and Jeb Bush put in 20 years ago. And over that 20 years, there were a lot of black kids signing up for school choice
for the charter schools,
schools, and for vouchers
and
scholarships.
And Gillum was going to get rid of them. So yes. DeSantis got 18% of the black vote in Florida. 18% of black women.
100,000 black women, which was 3 times his margin of victory. He won the election by 34%. 100,000 black women said,
so
no,
DeSantis got 100,000 black female votes in Florida as a result of charter schools. Moms of kids going to charter schools that didn't want to kick their kids out, put them back in failing schools.
Yes, and so that was the first evidence that school choice can move an election in a huge state like Florida.
We're with Vernon Robinson. He's with Black Americans to re-elect President Trump, predicting, here's what I'm trying to understand, predicting that Trump is going to get 20% of the black vote in swing states, but I'm trying to figure out whether you're in a swing state or you're in New York, what the hell's the difference? Why wouldn't you vote for him? I'm trying to figure that out.
Well, for instance, I'm trying to raise $2.4 million, and I'm not going to spend a dime in New York or California. I'm going to spend it in 8 swing states. Now, it might bleed over in the case of Philadelphia a little into New Jersey, but, we don't care what happens in New Jersey. What we care about is what happens in the media markets in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia.
Yeah, but if you're not getting 20% of the black vote in New York, how are you going to get 20% of the black vote in Pennsylvania? What the hell's the difference?
We probably got 21% in Pennsylvania. There was an Axios poll a couple of days, like 5 days.
But okay,
5
you're
days,
not
5 days.
You're not. I'm not
I'm
getting it.
I'm telling you what happened.
But why would you get 21% in Pennsylvania and 3% in New Jersey?
John's talking
mechanics.
He's talking mechanics. So if you connect the dots of what he said in the beginning, he said they don't understand what the Republican issues stand for, and he's telling them. He's going in those states with money.
But why do they understand it in Pennsylvania, but they don't understand it
because you're doing
in
flyers. He's spending money there.
Because
TV ads and flyers and registering voters.
Because hopefully what will happen is 3 super PACs, the president's campaign, and the Republican Party of Pennsylvania, and a couple of Republican federal candidates, will all be having a message on urban contemporary radio, reaching half of the black electorate in those places every week.
Got it.
And for the first time, the voters are going to hear several things, and they're not going to like most of it.
So the difference in New York and Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and North Carolina is that you're spending money to get your message out to the African American
and
community
you're giving the message
in Florida, but you're not spending the money in New Jersey.
And he's giving the message.
And it is a tough message with high contrast, high impact. Like the end of our pro-life ads is fill in the blank Democrat, and we'll just use Bernie Sanders. The next time Bernie Sanders asks for your vote, ask him why doesn't he want our children.
You know what?
It's the simple message to the forgotten man that Trump has always done.
I agree with you there. One of my best friends in the world, guy's name, white Democrat, just got elected again, beat a black 30-year incumbent in a primary in Virginia. The guy's name is Joe Morrissey, right? He's from Petersburg, Virginia, which is 75% African American. And Joe he beat a 30-year incumbent, Vernon, in a Democrat primary on one issue. You know what it was? Life. One issue, along with potholes and things like that. But the only non-local thing, he ran ads on the radio, and he did robocalls and did mailers and did live calls on one thing into the black community in Petersburg, which is your legislator who's been there for 30 years is killing black babies. I'm going to save them. I'm for getting rid of third term. I'm for getting rid of the whole thing. He ran on an unabashed, aggressive, pro-life agenda, and he beat her, and he got 72% of the vote. Beat a 32-year Democrat incumbent. Trounced got 72% of the vote. That's unheard of. And she was not involved in any corruption. She was a former mayor. One issue clobbered her.
Right. We can win on that issue.
Life.
And what it makes it more amazing is that in North Carolina, 69% of the black electorate is women. I would imagine a similar number, in the 60s in that district were women. So they looked beyond gender and clobbered her on the life issue. It's very powerful, and it's unfortunate that the GOP is not saying anything.
No, they can't figure it out.
That's how they never figured Trump out, and that's all he did.
But look, I think the Florida, I'm going to quote you on it, so I want to be sure I get this right. I don't want to write it down. I want to commit it to internalize it. So you're saying that Ron DeSantis in Florida in 2018 got elected governor, beat the mayor of Tallahassee, Andrew Gillum, and he won by 30,000 votes. And you're saying 34,000. And you're saying that he got 18% of black females.
18% of black females, which is 100,000
votes. 100,000 votes.
And 15% of the entire black electorate.
So he got 15% of the black vote in Florida, 18% of black women. And the number one issue was charter schools, because African-American women that voted for DeSantis, white Republican conservative, voted for him because he was going to save their charter schools, and they had kids in the schools that were doing well, and they didn't want to give it up. Have I internalized that?
Yeah, there are also private scholarships, K-12.
But it's
Florida.
Education.
But it's school choice, not getting stuck in the failing union
Why
schools.
aren't you on Fox News every day?
Well, I was killed by... Well, I don't know why I'm every day. There's a lot better looking guys that they have on there. But the problem...
Nobody listens to Fox News.
The problem recently was...
Why aren't you on CNN?
The problem recently was impeachment. I've scheduled 3 days in a row for Fox and Friends, and got bumped Thursday, Friday, and Saturday because of impeachment.
And now they're going to bump them because of the virus, because they don't want the message out.
Well, in any event.
But that's
Quite
why
the message. Quite the message. We're out of time.
We need meat.
I want to
cheese.
thank. I know we need meats with our cheeses. I want to thank Vernon Robinson. He's the treasurer of Black Americans to re-elect the president, keeping America great. Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Very enlightening conversation. Vernon, let's stay in touch. Email me and come on my show on a regular basis. Fascinating. Thank you for being with us, Vernon.
Great to be here, and be sure your listeners need to buy that on Amazon. Coming Home, how Black Americans will re-elect Trump.
That's your book, right?
I wrote it with Bruce Eberle. So
Coming Home, Amazon. Vernon Robinson. Vernon, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Stay around, and you can have some of our finest meats and cheeses.